Hello children, welcome to today's English class. I hope you all are safe and healthy at home. Children, in the previous class, we had learnt a lesson from your supplementary text, Footprints Without Feet. That was the name of the chapter itself. The name of your supplementary text is also Footprints Without Feet, and the chapter or story which we read in the last class was also chapter 5, the Footprints Without Feet. And we had read about an eccentric scientist, Griffin. Okay, and we saw why he was called as an eccentric scientist, because he used all his discoveries for a destructive purpose. And he was self-centered, and he used his discovery to cause damage to people. Okay, so that wasn't fair on the part of a scientist. Okay, scientific discoveries must be for constructive purpose, not for destructive purpose. So when we look at Griffin as a scientist who used all his discoveries for destructive purpose, then we do not, take him as a good scientist. Okay, a scientist who has done something for the welfare of human being. So we don't have good feelings about Griffin as a scientist, because we have great respect for scientists as they have made our life comfortable and easygoing. Whatever we are today is because of all their discoveries. Now the next chapter, children, of your supplementary text is again a story of a scientist. But how is this scientist different from Griffin? How have his discoveries benefited mankind? Whether it has benefited or not. Okay, now once we have learnt about Griffin, so now you would wonder, now what is the story of this scientist about? Okay, so before we actually move on to the lesson, let's try to understand this scientist, Richard E. Bright. Okay, now as we learn about Richard E. Bright, children will also try to compare this scientist with Griffin. Children, you need to, always understand the chapter, connecting it to different lessons of the same theme, and also trying to relate the story to various other situations so that you can compare and understand the lesson well. And when questions are asked from different lessons of the same themes, you are able to answer them well. Okay, so this particular scientist, he was one of the greatest scientists of the world. Okay. And as a child, he was very curious. And from the time when he was in grade 2, he had started collecting butterflies. And children, in fact, right from the time he was in kindergarten, that means the nursery or the pre-nursery classes, he had the hobby of collecting butterflies. And by the time he was in grade 2, he had collected more than 25 species of butterfly. Okay, so he had the hobby of collecting butterflies right from his childhood. And now he also had the hobby of collecting, fossils, rocks and coins. Okay, and he also gazed at stars for a long time at night, as he was interested in astronomy. Okay, children, so please listen carefully as I discuss. Okay, so these were his hobbies right from childhood. and he was also very curious. Okay, since he was curious, he had all these hobbies, and it was this curiosity of Ebright, especially knowing about butterflies, collecting them and collecting lot of information about butterflies and doing lot of projects, made him a great scientist. Of course, he also did many other discoveries. Okay, and for his discoveries, children, he had also received the Cyril Scholar Award and the Schering-Plough Award for biochemistry and molecular biology. Okay, children, so he was the recipient of these two awards for his great achievements in science. Now, children, all his discoveries had greatly helped in the development of science. Okay, and all his discoveries were used for the benefit of mankind. His studies and researches greatly helped even other scientists in making further discoveries. So, children, now if we look at Griffin and try to understand, though he was a gifted scientist, he discovered a drug that could make him invisible, which was of no use for mankind. And becoming invisible, he tried to harm people. He damaged properties. Okay, and he also troubled people. Okay, now Ebright, a curious child, okay, and having hobbies of collecting rocks, coins, fossils and butterflies, and later on developing his interest in knowing more about butterflies, and also he completed so many projects. He participated in so many science fairs. Okay, children, the first time he participated in the science fair, he did not win any prize. His project did not win any prize, and that was a great learning for him. Children, we always say that we learn from our mistakes. So this was a great learning for him, and he tried to analyze why his project was not adjudged the best. So he found that there should be more of experiments and working projects which could really impress the scientists. So he came back and started working on that, and then he took part in so many international science fairs, and his project year after year won the best project award. Okay, so when you read the textbook very carefully, children, so you can list out all his achievements, that is all the projects which he had made, his experiments in different science fairs. Okay, there are many of them. And then about also his achievements on cells, about DNA. Okay, so that was a very important discovery he made. We will be looking into it while we are looking at the chapter. So children, let me tell you one more thing. You know that moms are always the best, and they do support their children a lot, okay, as they love and care them. So here, since Ebright had lost his dad, so his mother was his companion, his friend, okay, and both father and mother to him, and she supported a lot children. She used to buy him a lot of books. Since she knew that he loved collecting butterflies, she had brought him a book on butterflies, which helped him a lot in pursuing his, interest in collecting butterflies and also gathering lot of information on them and doing lot of experiments. Children, he did lot of experiments at home with butterflies. So I hope you got an idea of Bright, one of the greatest scientists of the world, and what were his interests. And now let's move on to the lesson. So children, before we move on to the lesson, I have told you before also that your supplementary text is meant for your self-reading in order to develop your reading skills. So I have jotted down the main points of the lesson. And some of the points we have also discussed in the introduction part, and let's go through the main points, and then let's also try to look at the qualities which the scientist possessed, which made him one of the greatest scientists of the world. So as we look at the main points, please look at the screen very carefully, children, and try to understand this particular scientist. The Making of a Scientist by Robert W. Peterson. At the age of 22, Richard H. Bright excited the world of science with a new theory on cells. So children, when he was very young, he was 22 years, he excited the world of science with his discovery or the theory of cells. Richard's scientific career started with butterflies, as we had discussed, and he started collecting butterflies since he was in kindergarten. His mother encouraged his interest in learning, and she would take him on trips and bought him telescopes, microscopes, cameras and equipments. So she was a great support to the young scientist. His father died very young, and his mother became his only companion and motivator. She motivated him a lot. Richard E. Bright, in his second grade, had a collection of 25 species of butterflies. Now his mother gifted him a children's book called The Travels of Monarch 10, a kind of butterfly, which described how monarch butterflies migrated to Central America, and this opened the world of science to Richard E. Bright. So children, as we had seen that his mother was a great support to him. She took him on trips, and since he had no friends, she bought him books on butterflies, and that was how the Travels of Monarch 10 opened the world of science to Richard E. Bright. He then sent tagged butterflies to Dr. Urquhart, the writer of the book. The Travels of Monarch 10. So this particular scientist, Dr. Urquhart, encouraged young aspiring scientists to do a lot of researches on butterfly, especially the monarch butterflies, and therefore he used to tag butterflies, children. He used to put tags on butterflies and he used to send it to Dr. Urquhart. And Richard raised a flock of butterflies in his basement. He raised butterflies in his own house, and he would tag the butterflies' wings to send them to Dr. Urquhart. In his 7th grade, he entered the county science fair but lost there. I had mentioned about this, children, that the first time he had participated in the science fair, his project did not win any prize. So children, you might have also taken part in so many science exhibitions. In our own islands also, the district level and state level science exhibitions are organized from time to time, where children from different parts of the islands, take part and they display their projects. And all of them don't get a prize, isn't it? Many of you might have won a prize for your own project. You do participate in so many science projects and display them. And many times you might have also participated in the national level science exhibitions. You might have presented your projects there at the national level. So children, this is something to be really proud of. But it might have also happened, children, that you have participated in science exhibitions and your project did not win any prize for the first time. And you might have really got disheartened. So here this young scientist, when his project did not win any prize, so though he might have been a bit sad, but he tried to analyze, why his project was not selected and why, the other projects were selected. So then he tried to analyze and tried to improve himself. And therefore, he raised butterflies in his house, he started doing experiments, and he started, studying more about these monarch butterflies. So he wanted to make his experiments more lively, and interesting. So what did he do? He wrote to Dr. Urquhart for new ideas and received many suggestions for his experiments. And the following year, his science fair project was to test the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarch butterflies. So he had tried to study these two different types of butterflies, the viceroy butterflies and the monarch butterflies. And children, this time his project received first place in the zoology division and third place overall in the county science fair. So you can see in the picture, children, here the monarch butterfly and the viceroy butterfly. The monarch butterfly doesn't have any lines on the wings, and here the viceroy butterfly has got lines on the wings. So he made a comparative study. He did experiments on these two butterflies and he really worked hard, and this time his project was placed in the first positions and also the third place in the overall assessment of all the projects. So children, that is how you learn from your mistakes, and then you try to do better the next time. And if you work hard and if you are determined to do better, then you do receive good results. So that is what we learn from this young scientist. In the second year of his high school, Richard discovered an unknown insect hormone, and Richard and his friends showed that the tiny gold spots on butterflies produced a hormone that was necessary for its complete development. Now this was something very new and also something exciting for all the other scientists. So their project won the first place in the county fair and got Richard an entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair. So children, from the national level, he straight away got into the International Science Exhibition. Because this time he had done some experiments about a particular hormone produced by butterflies with the help of the tiny gold spots on their body. Now he grew cells, and then he also cultured them, and then Ebright was able to identify the chemical structure of the hormone as well. And he showed how the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. Children, here DNA means the substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. It determines the form and function of the cell. You might have many times heard this term DNA test, and you might have also learnt in your science. Thus DNA is the blueprint for life. So you will know more about this in your science class, and you can of course discuss with your science teacher. Richard Ebright graduated from Harvard with the highest honors, second in his class of 1,516 students. Richard had time for other interests as well. It is not that he was an aspiring scientist, so his focus was only on science, science and science, and his world was only doing experiments and limiting himself to scientific discoveries. It was not like that. He had other hobbies too, and he was very good in so many other fields also. Let's now look at that. He was a champion in debate, a good canoeist, and an expert photographer also. He had great respect and admiration for his social studies teacher, Richard A. Weyherer, who opened his mind to new ideas. Richard was no doubt competitive, but not in a bad sense. He just wanted to be the best. So that is how you all should be, children. We should have the competitive spirit, but not in a bad sense. We must always try to do our best, and then the victory will be ours. We must never, think that I should score more marks than my friend. I should score more marks than my neighbor. No, you should always try to be the best. So that is a healthy competitive spirit. Now, he also had a competitive spirit, but it was healthy, and he wanted to do the best. So the Travels of Monarch 10, this particular book, which his mother had bought for him, opened the world of science to Richard E. Bright, and then he never lost his scientific curiosity. Here, canoeist is a person who travels in a canoe, a small narrow boat. So children, I hope you got an idea about the different aspects in the life of this great scientist, okay, who surprised the world of science with his discovery right at the age of 22. So children, these were some of the points I had jotted down for you from your textbook for you to get a glimpse of what the lesson is about. Now, you must read the lesson very carefully, as it is very interesting and very different from, the footprints without feet. Very different from the scientist Griffin. Okay? So, you must read the lesson very carefully. And children, as I have always been discussing with you, while you are reading a particular chapter or story, you must try to give suitable headings to different paragraphs so that you understand the concepts better. For example, after reading this particular story, you can categorize your understanding into different topics. For example, the first topic could be the childhood and growing up of the young scientist. So there you can jot down the points about his childhood hobbies and also how he grew up, how his mother supported him. So all these points could come under this heading. And then you can talk about his study on butterflies or his experiments on butterflies. Here you can talk about his experiments on monarch butterflies and what were his experiments. You can write about that, how his mother bought him the book about the monarch butterflies and how he used to tag the butterflies. So all these points could come under this heading. Next heading could be his projects and achievements. Okay, so you can note down all the projects that he had made to participate in the science fairs at different levels, at the state level or the national level and then the international level. Okay, so the name of the project and the position he had scored in the exhibition. Okay, most of his experiments or project had bagged the first prize and they were adjudged the best. Okay, his projects were also adjudged the best among all the projects in the science fair. So you can write down all the projects so that you can remember them properly. And then at last you can talk about the growing up of a scientist. or the qualities which Ebright possessed, because as we had looked at the points also on your screen, that apart from being curious and his experiments and his interest in discovering a lot about butterflies, he had many other interests too, and that was what made him special. So you can talk about all those qualities. So children, let's look at some of the qualities of Richard Ebright that really made him one of the greatest scientists of the world. So as I have been telling you, whenever you look at certain lessons or stories, you must try to understand the characters and all the qualities they possessed, so that whenever there is a question about writing a character sketch of the main character, or writing a pen portrait, so it will help you. So we had also discussed about the adjectives or the qualities in our previous classes also. I hope you remember them. So let's look at the qualities which Ebright possessed. He was very curious. We knew that right from childhood, his curiosity for collecting butterflies and coins and fossils and rocks made him a great scientist. Then he was very hardworking. He was determined. Okay, he had the curiosity of doing things in the best possible way. And he was, apart from this, these were the qualities, or you can say that of collecting butterflies or doing experiments, studying about cells, making a lot of discoveries and surprising the world of science. So apart from all those scientific things, he also had other qualities. Okay, I have jotted them for you here. He was a champion debater, he was a public speaker, and he was a good canoeist. He was all-round outdoors person. He was an expert photographer, especially of nature and scientific exhibits. Okay, and we know that he had a competitive spirit, but it was for the betterment of the world, not to compete with anybody or without any ill feelings for anybody. He just wanted to be the best. He wanted to prove himself the best. And strong willpower. Children, if you want to achieve something, determination and willpower, these two qualities are very important. Unless and until you have a strong willpower, so you will not be able to achieve whatever you want to, whether it is the academic side or the co-curricular side or the scientific side or the cultural side. So you really need to have these two qualities, and we have seen that Ebright possessed all these qualities which made him very special. And we had seen that right from his childhood he was curious, and it was this curiosity that made him the greatest scientist of the world. So children, whenever you are describing these qualities or writing a character sketch of the main character of the lesson, it will be easy if you remember these qualities, if you jot down these qualities in your notebook, and as you talk about each quality, you can go back to the lesson and quote examples from the lesson as to how he had displayed this quality. For example, if we write that he was a curious scientist, okay, so we know that he was very curious and he had curiosity in knowing about butterflies and collecting butterflies. That is why he started collecting butterflies right from the stage of kindergarten. Okay, so in the same way you can go on explaining all these qualities in 1 or 2 sentences. So you will be able to write the answer in about 120 words very easily once you know the story very well and once you know all the qualities. So I hope children you will be able to write the character sketch of E-Bright in a very creative manner. So I hope you have understood the lesson well. So you read the lesson very carefully and try to understand it, and also note down the topics as I've told you, different topics and all the points, so which will help you to understand the concepts better and remember the points. So I hope you will do that. Happy reading. Take care, stay safe, stay at home.